Building on this momentum, he would open up the year 20 BBY with the death of several Jedi, collecting sabers from Padawans, Knights, and Masters alike. Grievous kidnapped Ambassador Kiyen in order to draw Republic forces into a trap on the planet Vandos. The first 2 Knights to respond were killed, and Grievous was able to capture a Mon Calamari ship that had a Jedi Master and a group of younglings on board. Master Quarmal was killed, as were several of the Force-sensitive children, but many were kept for a much worse fate. Grievous was working on capturing Force-sensitive humans to put them into droid bodies, a procedure that would be much like his own, hoping to remove the weaknesses of flesh while still retaining their powers with the Force. He wouldn't know this, but it likely would not have worked due to the massive loss of midichlorians. But luckily for the children, they would be rescued before they could be transferred to the Separatist research lab. A group led by the Padawan of one of the fallen knights led an attack with several other Jedi that was successful in freeing the younglings, but at the cost of their own lives in the process, adding 2 more sabers to the collection. During the Battle of Hanagar, a defoliator chemical was accidentally released that wiped out the ecosystem of that world, and Grievous saw this incident, as well as the use of his brain plague, as the key to Separatist victory. What better way for the army of droids to prove their superiority of metal over meat? They could soften up worlds for invasion by releasing airborne chemicals, viruses, or bacteria that would devastate the population, food supplies, or destroy crops. The enemy was vulnerable in so many more ways than his droid army, and Grievous petitioned Dooku to let him use these methods on a larger scale. But to his disappointment, the head of the CIS denied this. An excuse may have been that it would just be bad optics, disturbing the populations of the Separatists just as much as the Republic. But although Grievous couldn't have known it, he had stumbled upon a clue that this war was being tightly controlled by one man. That CIS or Republic victories were each an illusion, and winning the war was never a possibility. This was followed by the Battle of Boz Pity, where Grievous would brutally kill Master Soon Bates, crushing his head in the grip of his mechanized claws, ambushing the man before he could even get to his saber. That weapon would be immediately taken by the general and used to slice through the clone troopers all around him. It wasn't until Mace Windu arrived that Grievous was finally outmatched. Just like Kenobi, Mace would use his mastery of the Force to overwhelm the Soulless One, hurling an STAP into him, knocking the general unconscious, only to be rescued by his Magna Guards who hurried him off to Dooku. An embarrassing and abrupt end to his string of victories. Luckily for his reputation, other CIS leaders would come under attack in the following days, and require Grievous to come to their rescue. Wat Tambor would be held up in his fortress when the Republic launches a massive attack on Dagobah. Grievous would lead the defense force while Wat was under siege. He was able to keep the clone forces back, but a young bounty hunter named Boba Fett, working one of his earliest contracts for Jabba the Hutt, had managed to sneak into this fortress and fire on Wat Tambor. This Gekkoan was able to return fire on the boy, and he hid while frantically calling out to Grievous to come rescue him. Boba Fett was just 12 at that time, and though his training with his father made him deadlier than most, Grievous was able to quickly overwhelm him, delivering a blow that sent him flying into a cluster of poisonous Zabar fungus. The cyborg left Fett for dead, Boba only recovering just in time to escape from battle droids that were set to incinerate his body. The Battle of Dagobah would stretch on for several months, the planet eventually falling into Republic hands. Then Grievous found himself protecting and almost getting killed by the actions of Nute Gunray. He saw this Neimoidian as the complete opposite of everything he stood for. Cowardly and greedy, this man was an insult to every warrior fighting in the CIS. Gunray was obsessed with recovering some trinkets that he was forced to leave on Cato Neimoidia. He returned to his homeworld only to be tracked by Republic intel and ambushed by Republic starfighters. Nute would have been space debris if Grievous had not arrived to eliminate the pursuers, though in this moment Grievous had reservations, a delay that allowed the clone pilots to fire on Nute for some time before ultimately deciding that the loss of Gunray would be upsetting to Dooku and look bad for his own reputation, and could even lead to the Republic potentially gaining some intel. To Grievous's incredible outrage, this last concern was realized when the Republic captured Nute's Meccano chair, which was accidentally left on Cato Neimoidia during his rushed visit to recover those trinkets. Republic slicers were able to find records of upcoming plans to attack Belderon, and when Grievous arrived in his fleet, he was ambushed. He would lose almost all of his ships, though this battle would see the loss of an astounding 27 Jedi. And upon realizing how the Republic got this intel, Grievous nearly bashed in the squishy green head of the reckless Neimoidian, only restraining himself out of fear of Dooku's response. The months of horrifying Grievous victories was pushing for a call for peace to spring up on the Republic side, and Padme met with her friend Mina Bonteri to talk about getting the CIS to sue for peace as well. And to the secret puppet masters, this was an unbelievable and impermissible series of events. Grievous would be entrusted with getting this war back on course.
My representatives in the Republic are relying on you, General. See that your droids complete their mission.
But of course, Count. They will not fail.
He would prepare infiltrator droids to strike at the heart of the Republic. And when Dooku checks in, we see Grievous is sure to make the Mune understand that he is number 2 in the CIS.
You must hurry. The Senate is restless.
I don't take orders from you. Only Count Dooku.
Just as the Senate would be voting to agree to peace terms, preventing the need to deregulate the banks or order more troops, Grievous's droids would prove successful, destroying a major reactor that powered a large part of the Senate district. This made the senators more bellicose than ever, and the war was back to serving the goals of the Sith. In Part 2, we will see how the remainder of the Clone Wars pushed Grievous even further away from his spiritual warrior roots. How Kenobi would become a true nemesis, this Jedi using his deep connection to the supernatural to destroy the arrogant warrior that had lost his connection with any gods or ideals.